guess just being more inclusive when it comes to like movies, shows, popular media, the education system, including more representation, for example, teaching certain countries history instead of doing just like basically Europe, and maybe China, like just being more diverse and inclusive of other people's history and actually doing real world history, not just like 3 countries.
The U.S. has a history of turning a cold shoulder to their Asian citizens. Take, for example, the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, where Japanese Americans were forced into camps with limited hot water, inhumane conditions, and fenced into lots, stripped of their basic freedoms and rights. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, where over 2,400 U.S. citizens died, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942, with the intention of preventing espionage. While the government did have films about the situation, they didn't acknowledge the injustice of these concentration camps until nearly 40 years later. 2/3 of the occupants were American citizens, which exemplifies that the American government didn't view their own Asian citizens as real Americans with American rights.
It just bothered the heck out of me to think that I tried to be a good citizen, and man, they're tossing me into joints like this. I didn't like it.
You know, we had this chain link fence all around the camp. And we lived maybe a quarter of a block away from the fence. And the fence was guarded by soldiers who walked back and forth with their guns on their shoulders. I went up to the fence and I heard a rustling in the grass. I really was kind of wistful for what was outside the fence and thinking, you know, I used to be able to do that. Then there was a snake that was rustling around in the grass. I saw it and I put my foot out like this, and it must have frightened him because it wiggled right underneath the fence. And I thought, oh, that garter snake has a lot more freedom than I have. It can go under the fence and go away, and I can't do that.
Relocation centers are not normal and probably never can be.
In 1982, Chinese-American Vincent Chin was killed in a racially motivated assault. In Detroit, Michigan, 2 white men, Ronald Ebbins and Michael Nitz, supposedly mistook Vincent Chin, who was celebrating his bachelor party at a club, as Japanese. Angry at the success of the Japanese auto industry, one of the men approached Chin and, according to some witnesses, verbally blamed Chin for the increase in massive layoffs within the auto industry. The 3 men engaged in a fight in the parking lot of the club. Later, Chin was attacked by Nitz and Evans with a baseball bat until they were stopped by police officers. 4 days after the attack, Vincent Chin died. In 1983, Judge Charles Kaufman gave both Eben and Nitz 3 years probation and fined them $3,000 along with court costs. Many refer to Chin's murder as a failure of the legal system. Vincent Chin's murderers would not spend a day in jail. Even as Asian Americans led protests and advocated for Chin's rights, justice would not be served.
I want everybody tell the government do not to drop this case. I want justice for Vincent. I want justice for my son.
Transitioning into the 90s, more events would prove to minorities that work within the legal system was still necessary. After Rodney King was brutally assaulted by police, Americans, especially minorities that were fed up with racial profiling, were outraged. The protests spread across the LA area and eventually escalated to arson, looting, and murder regardless of race. Tensions were already running high between Koreans and other ethnic groups in the LA area as Asian Americans felt unfairly targeted when it came to convenience store robberies and criminal attacks. The police often fled when situations escalated and sometimes arrested store owners defending themselves rather than the looters and rioters. This sent a clear message to the Korean Americans. The police were not there to help and would see Koreatown burn, while protecting the wealthy white neighborhoods. This was a wake-up call. Asian Americans were not helped even as they and other minorities died, and police failed to prevent the destruction of communities within LA.
I don't care about the racism, I don't care anything. But it's not right, okay? It's not right to break inside and get any stuff, you know? It's not.
Many Koreans have lost all faith that the authorities can protect them.
There was a man out here who says we're all trained to shoot. Why? What's the feeling?
Well, see, we have no hatred towards black people. We have nothing against anybody. All we wanted to do is work hard and make it like the rest of us, and we know. But people are driving by, shooting at us, and we have to do something about it. We have no police support whatsoever.
I've had people give me Asian nicknames. I've had people fetishize me, yell things across the street, follow me to my car, literally push and shove me.
There's a stereotype that all Asians are smart, all Asians are nerdy. Your race and your ethnicity does not correlate to your knowledge and your intelligence.
People would point out things like, oh, you have a nice pig nose.
That was the first time I realized, oh, I'm different.
Are there any assumptions that people make about you because you're Asian?
Oh yeah. So first of all, I've never been good at math, and people always assume, oh, you're smart, you're Asian, you're good at mathematics, calculations, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm more into art.
A big assumption is like all Asian people are really smart and nerdy and like are just like so focused on academics that there isn't anything that they do in their social life or like. But a big thing about being Asian is like in a lot of Asian cultures you're hardworking, but that doesn't mean that's all there is to you.
I felt like I was categorized a certain way even when I was being myself. For example, I do care about academics. And then I was made to feel like, oh, well, you only care about academics not because of your values as an individual human being, but because you are Asian. I would say it's more like that. So my individual traits were rather just like boxed in to stereotypes.
Assumptions either like make you do worse or better, and I feel like they just shouldn't be there.
When you heard about like bad experiences with people you know, how did that make you feel?
I felt kind of shocked because I knew it was happening everywhere because the world isn't perfect, but I guess you can't escape from it anywhere. Just have to deal with it.
According to the American Psychological Association, the model minority myth is the, quote, idea that Asian Americans are unilaterally successful and well adapted because they are quiet, submissive, and hardworking. This stereotype can create the perception that Asians aren't people of color who experience social injustice and violence. During the COVID-19 pandemic, more issues continue to plague Asian Americans. Violence against Asians have led to devastating murders, injuries, and mental health issues.
So tired of living in fear.
Crimes against Asian Americans jumped more than 300% from 2020 to 2021.
Following Lee into her apartment in Manhattan's Lower East Side before fatally stabbing her.
This is a growing threat in the United States. A woman of Asian descent named Michelle Go was shoved onto the subway tracks in Times Square by a homeless man.
When you're being attacked like that, it feels so lonely. And it feels like if people don't do anything, that they're agreeing with it.
With the increase in hate and violence, it's important to find solutions to our problems. So, how can we contribute to stopping Asian hate?
I would try to actually think deeply about your personal prejudices that you've had about Asian people. Ask yourself why you've had them, why you've thought that it was okay.
Like, a lot of people don't know how sometimes, like, stereotypes, people just, like, let it slip, like racist phrases or those kinds of things.
I would just say, like, having a conversation, not making so many assumptions about someone because of their race, and actually, like, just try to have an open mind and just try to have a conversation, because honestly, you'll probably be surprised when you realize that all these people you talk to, they're all so different. They all have such different opinions, values, mannerisms, and that, I think, will open people's minds up and make them realize that not every person in the same racial group is the same.
I think they just need to be treated like everyone else. Everyone should be treated the same. There's no difference with, like we're all human.
Asian Americans have and continue to speak out about issues through rallies, protests, and national movements. From 2020 to 2021, Asian hate has increased by nearly 340%. So now, more than ever, activism and awareness is important.